First, hello everyone, and thank you for watching my video. I'm Yogi's Electronics. In this video, I will show you in detail how to clean an RTX 3080. And I will also show you how to correctly replace the thermal pads. And I'll show you what bad thermal pads can do to a GPU. Please watch the video till the end, the details are important. Are you ready? Then let's get started. So for cleaning the GPU, you need an air pressure spray, as you can see here. Or a classic compressor with a filter. Without the filter, there is a risk that water and oil residue from the compressor will end up on the GPU. And you need a soft brush. Since the GPU is relatively new, it is very unlikely that dirt has burned into it, and you need tweezers to remove coarser dirt. Since this is a soft brush, you don't have to be afraid of breaking anything. Since this GPU is very dirty, I have to work with a bit more pressure. You just have to watch out for the fan. As I have already said, this GPU is very dirty. Of course, I could also blow out the GPU with high pressure spray, but residues still remain on it. Since I'm indoors, there's a lot less dust building up in the room this way. But in the end, you have to decide for yourself what you prefer. I am satisfied with this type of cleaning process. As you can see, the GPU is full of dirt. And that affects the cooling of the GPU a lot. Wow, that's intense, how much dirt there is in there. If there is so much dirt, you have to be careful that this dirt doesn't end up under the fan. Therefore, you must be very thorough when you clean the GPU. As you can see, you can do a really good job with the soft brush. Now we're going to blow out the dust where the soft brush can't get to. I like the high pressure spray because you're much more mobile, and you don't have hoses around you. As you can see, the high pressure spray does its job very well. The pressure in the can is between 2 to 3 bar, the only disadvantage is that the can gets quite cold when the maximum amount of air escapes. I measured the temperature on mine, and it was -5 degrees when the maximum air escaped. Such high pressure sprays are the most recommended in electronic cleaning. I have cleaned the GPU, but there are still a few dust residues on the case, but I will clean this again at the end with a microfiber cloth. Now we will open up the GPU to replace the thermal pads. Now we will open up the GPU to replace the thermal pads. You must first lose the 9 screws to remove the heat sink. If you remove the heat sink, turn it left and right so that it can be detached from the circuit board easily. The 2 fan connectors are very tight, so you have to be careful who you stretch out the cables. If you go too rough, you could tear out the pins on the board. You can now see exactly what happens when you install bad thermal pads. There is oil from the thermal pads everywhere, which is not good. Luckily, the second plug was easier to pull out. Now you can see even more precisely where the oil has spread. And on the CPU you can see exactly how it mixed with thermal paste. Luckily, the card is still intact. Although the original thermal pads are from Gigabyte. I can't believe that such cheap thermal pads are installed in such an expensive GPU. So folks, always buy quality thermal pads and not the cheapest. if you want to use your card for a long time and without interruptions. Now I will remove and clean the back cover, because I will also install 3 thermal pads on the back side, to improve the cooling performance. Also, be careful with these main connectors because they are also sensitive. I will now check the board for visible defects. Since the GPU is covered in oil, I need to make sure the board is okay. And there on the aluminum cover of the CPU, you can clearly see that the oil came in from all sides. To be honest, I'm even more surprised that the card still works. As always, I use isopropyl alcohol to clean the GPU, or other electronic parts. I always start with cleaning the CPU, as the thermal paste is hard to get off. And then I clean the remaining components. As you can see, I bought a half-hard burst, so that I can also get between the capacitors. I like it when I work cleanly in the CPU area, and when I can completely remove old thermal paste. Since it has a lot of oil, I have to clean everything several times to get the clean condition off all components. The board looks very clean now. I will also quickly remove the thermal paste from the copper block, so that I can continue work cleanly. Now I will measure the thickness of thermal pads. I think this is the most important part for most people. The thermal pads I use here are from the Extreme Odyssey. I also mostly use the ones from the Grizzly Minus pads. In comparison, the difference is very small. And both pads are very good. Now I remove the old thermal pads, and then I have to degrease the surface well with isopropyl alcohol. I still have to degrease the back shield and mount the new thermal pads on it. On the back of the shield, there are markings where the thermal pads should be attached. Unfortunately, I don't know if every graphic card has the markings. Now the assembly is finally in order. Make sure the all thermal pads are properly seating in their place. Now I still have to remove the protective films from the thermal pads and finally mount them. Maybe one or the other is wondering why I align the thermal pads with the scalpel. I do that because the tip is precise and sharp. If it is too much somewhere, I can cut it off easily and quickly. But you always have to be careful. You have to distribute the thermal paste evenly so that the contact is good. Just make sure the thermal paste has a thermal conductivity over 12 with mK. Of course, the higher the conductivity, the better the transmission to the heat sink. Once you screwed in the screws, don't tighten them all the way straight away. You have to check first if everything is in the right place. If everything is okay, then you can tighten the screws. I hope you liked the guide. Thank you for watching my video. Take care and stay healthy, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.